Back in 2013, I, a 22-year-old, found myself with an old computer that I deemed unworthy for a shop, but potentially useful to someone else. Seeking a platform to sell it, Craigslist was the go-to option at the time. I had never heard any horror stories associated with it, and it seemed like a convenient site where locals could snag a good deal. Trusting both the platform and the safety of my neighborhood, I hesitated little in listing the PC for sale. Within a day, I received an email from someone named Cameron, expressing interest in buying the computer at the listed price. I assured him that he could test it out upon pickup, and we scheduled the exchange for the following morning. However, on the day of our supposed meeting, at 11:15 a.m., with no sign of Cameron or an email confirming his arrival, I decided to open the blinds and keep a watchful eye outside. To my surprise, there was no sign of the expected visitor until around 11:45 a.m., when a car slowly approached my house, stopping at the curb without turning off the engine. Anticipating Cameron's email, I paused the TV, waiting for the imminent pickup. However, the car remained stationary for several minutes before abruptly turning back onto the road and driving away. Perplexed, I sent an email to Cameron, but received no response. After an hour of waiting, I moved on with my day, putting the strange incident out of my mind. It wasn't until later that evening, around 9 p.m., that I retired to bed early due to work commitments the next day. A couple of hours into sleep, around 11 p.m., I awoke to an odd thumping sound from downstairs. Startled, I listened intently, trying to discern the source of the noise. The thumping persisted, growing louder, prompting me to investigate. As I descended the stairs, the noise intensified, becoming more than just a subtle thud. Moving through the house cautiously, I turned the corner into the back hall and noticed a figure outside the window. The thudding continued, and the silhouette came into focus. My heart raced as the figure pressed their face against the glass, locking eyes with me before swiftly retreating and disappearing into the night. Terrified, I called the police. But by the time they arrived, the intruder had evaded capture. Despite the unsettling coincidence of the incident occurring on the same day as my Craigslist meeting with Cameron, there was no concrete evidence linking the two events. The bolt holding the window down showed signs of tampering, as if someone had tried to force it open from the outside. The mystery of the intruder's intentions and identity remained unsolved, and from that point forward, I steered clear of using Craigslist. A few years back, I bid farewell to my dorm room and embraced the idea of apartment living. The transition meant leaving behind the mismatched pieces of furniture that adorned the dorm, none of which were mine. Consequently, I found myself in need of everything essential for setting up a new living space. Although my financial situation had improved, I planned to save for a few more months before splurging on significant purchases for the apartment. Among the immediate necessities was a bed frame. However, perusing through options revealed that bed frames came with hefty price tags. Having just invested in a new mattress, I was reluctant to part with a substantial amount of cash for a frame. Turning to various used furniture sites, I eventually landed on Craigslist, attracted by the multitude of postings. While many offerings were inexpensive or even free, they all seemed subpar. That's until I stumbled upon one that piqued my interest. A plain wooden bed frame that appeared relatively unscathed. I promptly sent an email inquiring about its availability, continuing my search in the meantime. Within minutes, I received a response confirming its availability for a reasonable 35 hours. Seizing the opportunity, I accepted the offer, and we arranged to meet later that day at 6 p.m. While awaiting our meeting, I unpacked some belongings and rearranged the bedroom to make space for the new frame. At 5:30 p.m., the man emailed me his address, which was located 20 minutes away in an unfamiliar area. As I drove, I surveyed the surroundings, attempting to familiarize myself with the new neighborhood. About halfway there, the town abruptly faded away, leaving a sparsely populated area in its wake. Although slightly uneasy, reaching the neighborhood somewhat eased my concerns. The houses were not too far apart, providing a semblance of normalcy, albeit lacking in aesthetic appeal. Pulling up to the given address, I parked in the driveway. The lights were on, and the front door was left ajar. Walking up, I rang the doorbell, and the man appeared shortly after. Tall and heavy, he wore a hat and jacket, seemingly ordinary but somehow giving off an odd vibe. He invited me inside, leading me upstairs to a small spare bedroom that, to my confusion, looked occupied. The room boasted a dresser, nightstands, clothes strewn about, and even the bed frame complete with a mattress, sheets, and blankets. I clarified that I was only interested in purchasing the bed frame, not the mattress or anything else. He assured me that was fine, and I focused on the bed frame, deeming it acceptable for purchase. I agreed to buy it, and he offered to help me transport it to my truck, suggesting we have a drink before the task at hand. Back in the hallway, he swiftly returned with 2 glasses of beer from the adjacent room. Politely declining, I sensed a shift in his demeanor. He insisted we hang out, attempting to coerce me into having a drink. Uncomfortable, I maneuvered past him into the hallway, expressing my urgency to leave. His demeanor turned increasingly pushy, and I, eager to exit the situation, hurried down the stairs. As I made my escape, he suddenly shifted to an overly friendly tone, apologizing and even offering the bed frame for free. Ignoring his pleas, I hastened down the stairs, hearing him following me down the hallway. I managed to leave before he caught up, catching a glimpse of him standing at the front door as I drove away. Perhaps he was just a lonely individual seeking companionship, but the entire encounter felt unsettling. The room and bed were evidently in use, raising questions about his true intentions. When I revisited the posting later that night, it had vanished from my memory, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss with that man and his peculiar offer. Back when I reached the age of 20, I resided in a petite 1-bedroom apartment, a dwelling I had moved into on my 18th birthday. However, with a better job and an improved financial situation, I decided to upgrade my living situation by renting a small house. It wasn't anything extravagant, but it offered more space and represented a significant improvement from my previous abode. Little did I anticipate that the transition wouldn't be seamless. Upon setting up my belongings, the mismatched and undersized furniture from my apartment clashed with the interior of the new house. It gave the impression that I had moved into a residence larger than I could comfortably afford. Realizing this, I dedicated the next couple of months to saving up additional funds specifically for purchasing new furniture. During this period, I took the opportunity to list numerous items on Craigslist in an attempt to declutter. Besides the couch and a few other pieces, I generously offered most of the dressers, storage shelves, and other substantial furnishings for free. My primary concern was getting rid of these items, and I didn't mind not getting paid, as long as someone could assist me in hauling them out of my house. Gradually, I managed to sell or give away most of the items, leaving only 2 things behind: my old bedroom dresser and a seemingly unwanted nightstand. After a month, someone finally contacted me expressing interest in both items. They inquired if the furniture was still available and if, indeed, it was free. Confirming both, we agreed on a date for pickup. On the agreed-upon day, I arrived home from work merely an hour before the scheduled time for pickup. To my surprise, there was already a truck parked in my driveway. Approaching the vehicle, I peered inside, but it appeared unoccupied. Opening the garage and parking, I inspected the mysterious truck once more, and this time, I spotted someone inside. The individual waved and introduced themselves as the Craigslist contact there to pick up the furniture. I was momentarily taken aback, given the early arrival. "You're an hour early," I mentioned, as we had agreed to meet at 7:30. He apologized, citing an unforeseen circumstance that prompted him to come early. Though puzzled by the lack of prior communication, I decided to proceed and showed him inside. As we examined the items, he swiftly agreed to take them. Together, we hauled out the large dresser and loaded it into his truck bed. However, when we returned for the nightstand, an unsettling incident occurred. A shuffling sound emanated from downstairs, followed by a quiet thump. My gaze shifted between the staircase and the man, who now looked at me in a disconcerting manner. Attempting to downplay the strange occurrence, he uttered, "Everything okay?" in an oddly monotone voice. Hesitant, I nodded and guided him downstairs to see him out. Closing the door behind him, I watched through the window to ensure his departure. The entire interaction had been peculiar from start to finish, but the true horror unfolded later that night. Noticing a faint streak on the wall near one of the downstairs closets, I investigated further. Inside the closet, I discovered very faint shoe prints, indicating that someone had been hiding there. It dawned on me that there might have been another person in my house alongside the man. It appeared they had broken in before I returned from work, with one of them concealing themselves in the closet upon hearing my arrival. I contacted the police, but the two individuals had expertly covered their tracks. Despite providing descriptions of the man I saw and the truck he drove, the investigation yielded limited results. The whole ordeal was terrifying, and thereafter, I became wary of using Craigslist for transactions at my residence. Instead, I opted to donate items or resort to purchasing through more secure platforms like eBay. It's disconcerting how, in today's world, individuals can seemingly get away with anything as long as they plan ahead.